All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mike. And today for UFC 294, I'll be breaking down the card with my guy, Tim. What's up, Tim? How are you feeling, brother? And how you feeling about the card?
Doing great, Mike. How are you, man?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Excited about this card. This is I'm stoked. It's been a couple weeks since I've been back with MMA. So I really excited. Super pumped about this card, man. There's a lot of great fights, a lot of great fighters, some newer fights, but I think that they actually made them better fights. So I like it a lot.
Yeah, I love the replacements. I'm all for seeing Islam beat up Charles again, but this one's way more fun. So I'm hyped to talk about that one. Same with the Hamzat fight. And yeah, I love these Abu Dhabi cards. Every year they're pretty much the same time, and my birthday is like a week from now. So I usually just have people come over and then I won't pay any attention to them while I get super focused on the fights I have money on. But yeah, I love these cards. I'm looking forward to it, and we can hop right in. So for our first fight, we've got Bruno Silva versus Sharabutdin Magomedov. Silva, he's 23-9-0, 34 years old, 6 feet tall at the 74-inch reach. Magomedov on the other side, he's going to be 11-0, undefeated. 29, so he's 5 years younger, 2 inches taller at 6'2", and I don't have his reach. Why don't you start us off, Tim?
Yeah, this is an interesting fight to start off with. I think they're giving us a banger here. Both these guys are kickboxers. I don't believe that the Bruno Silva black belt in jiu-jitsu is like legit. He's not bad with his jits. I just think like his takedown defense and like just the fact that he's been subbed like 7 times is pretty bad. So yeah, I also think that the Silva side is concerned. There's some concerns. I really do genuinely think that Alex Pereira kind of broke him, even though he didn't finish him in that fight. Like he's never looked the same since that fight. GM3 was looking like Floyd Mayweather at times against him as well. Yeah, I just don't think that like his chin or his durability is the same. I don't think he's reacting to strikes as well. And I think he's just like slower in general. That being said, I think like Magomedov is kickboxer as well. He's not, I really don't see him grappling much in this fight. So it's going to be kickboxer versus kickboxer. He can be, Shara can be like a little bit low volume for my liking at the line. But I do think that the strikes that he's going to do and going to have chances, like, especially as the fight gets going, I just feel like, you know, this is one of those fights where I think over time, I think he's going to eventually catch him with something. And Shara probably wins by KO, but I wouldn't be shocked if, you know, this is one of those times where he handles the punches and he doesn't get finished, but I kind of lean Shara gets him out at some point or connects at some point.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was very unimpressed with Shara. Like, yeah, it's cool when you can throw a bunch of cool kicks and like you're fast and it's good, but he has like almost no hands at all. There's a jab, a few combinations, but that's really it. And I don't know how that's gonna work out here. I'm sure he's gonna throw more. I mean, he's really gonna have to. But this is kind of like a tough fight for his first fight, in my opinion. And look, I honestly, maybe Pereira messed up Silva, but I never thought Silva was that great to begin with. I mean, the Turman fight, I know he knocked him out, but he didn't look that great doing it. The Sanchez fight, losing until the 3rd round knockout. Jordan Wright was landing on him a ton before he finished him. Never thought that highly of him, but he is a good striker. And on the feet, he's solid, and he has a lot of power, and he could take a hit for the most part. Brendan Allen, I mean, he hit him right behind the ear, and like that will put someone down. And he still wasn't out. He ended up submitting him. I think that he does have the power and the striking to hurt Shara here, especially because Shara's not throwing hands and he's not really mixing up much. If he can just wait on those kicks, time them properly, and counter, I think he can land a lot. I think he can hurt him, and I think he can finish him. If Shara chose to wrestle, there's a path right there. Bruno's ground game is awful, but he doesn't do it ever pretty much. Like at all. Never really goes for it. I did play his submission prop. Me and Tim were talking about it because I got it at plus 2,000. And I mean, come on. If you're going to give me the plus 2,000 on a sub when Bruno Silva is 0-7 to the sub, and I think it's possible that he can hurt Shara. Maybe Shara then will wrestle. Maybe then I can get my sub. It's a small sprinkle, a tenth of a unit. I'm not doing anything else here because I don't know if I want to trust Bruno Silva, but at the same time, I'm not betting Shara at like minus 250 right now when I do think he can get knocked out. So,
I think that I agree with you. I think that Shara's like at range, he's going to do a lot better with his kicks, but I don't think that. I think that in the pocket, I think that I agree. I think that Silva's way more live in the pocket with him, and the fight could get close. As well as like just if the fight goes, it's like, dude, this is really going to be an interesting. Like if the fight goes, like how is this score? I want to see how these scored. Like I just want to see all the is the crowd going to affect some of the scoring and some of the judging in these cards? So we're seeing these fights.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, there's going to be a lot of hometown fighters, so a lot of talk there. But we can move on. Next up, we've got Jinh Frey versus Victoria Dudakova. Frey, she's going to be 11-9-0. She's 38 at this point in her career. 5'3" with a 65-inch reach. She was an atomweight before the UFC. That was her weight class, and that's probably where she belonged. Dudakova, 7-0, undefeated. 24. She's going to be 14 years younger. 2 inches taller at 5'5" with a 2-inch reach advantage. I'll start us off here. I love Dudakova. I've been a huge fan. I played her as the underdog in her Contender Series fight. She made an even bigger fan out of me there when her leg was like completely messed up and she still managed to dominate and win the fight. And yeah, we didn't really get to see what would have happened with Estela Nunes because the injury off like the first takedown. But I think the wrestling would have gotten the job done. And with Jinh Frey, she's got really good takedown defense, and she is small and stocky, so it could be hard to take her down. But like she hasn't really been fighting wrestlers like Elise Reed, Polyana Viana's not shooting takedowns. Demopoulos, okay. Yoder's not really shooting. Gloria DePaula, no. And then the person who did shoot on her, Kay Hansen, took her down twice and got a bunch of control time, and ultimately, I believe, submitted her. So for me, this is an easy Dudakova. Maybe on the feet, she has some struggles, but I don't think so. From what I've seen, I like her striking. She doesn't leave it there often. She just goes for the wrestling. And I think it's going to work here. I think she's going to dominate. I've got her in a parlay with someone we'll talk about later. And I did play her knockout prop when it was plus 900. Killed the line movement there. Proud of that one. I put 0.2 there. Yeah, sure, she can get a sub, absolutely. But ground and pound is always there. Injuries are always there. If I'm getting plus 900 on that, I'm going to take the shot. So what are you thinking, Tim?
Yeah, it's a great breakdown. I agree 100%. Jinh Frey, just this could be like she could be hanging him up at any point in her neck. There's no real reason for her to even be in the UFC at this point other than to get people wins. So this is a solid spot for Dudakova. You hit the biggest point that I was going to say on the wrestling, like the fighters that Jinh Frey's fought. Like she's not fighting anybody that's wrestled. Kay Hansen, I think, is kind of mid wrestler. And I just feel like Dudakova is going to get to some dominant positions and, how does Frey win? I mean, yeah, it's the only way that she wins. And I highly doubt she's got it's like you said, it's like she's not going to have too much success striking before she has to bonk her. I mean, it's like if she hits her 3 or 4 times, she's just going to get clinched and taken down. So it's just, I don't see her, stuffing every single takedown. And I also think that Dudakova could get some good positions here, and your KO could be looking really, really good. So it's a great line.
Ground and pound, baby. Ground and pound.
Yeah, she kind of wilts. I mean, Jinh Frey kind of wilts at this point. She does not. She's also just super, super small. I mean, like she should never have been in this like division in the first place. So she like compromises. And the other, I think Dudakova has fought at like 135 before, so it's pretty advantageous size advantage.
Yeah, I definitely think that's gonna play a part too. But we can move on to the next fight. Definitely going to be a size edge here. We've got Nathaniel Wood versus Mohammad Naimov. Wood is 19-5-0. He's 30 years old, 5'6" with a 69-inch reach. believe he's at Great Britain top team. Naimov 9-2-0. He's 29. He's going to be 1 year younger, 3 inches taller, and have a 1 inch reach advantage. He's training out of Elevation. Start us off, Tim.
This is an interesting fight. I think that, Wood's one of those guys where it's like, I would love to be able to bet him really, really hard in a lot of fights, because I just look at his skill set, his ability to be a versatile fighter, and just very, very well rounded. And there's not any box that he can't check except for durability and just ability. He just gets finished. It's like a huge issue for him. So he's been dropped in multiple fights. He fights. It's not like he doesn't try to fight through shit. He fights through and survives a lot of times where he probably could have lost more fights. I think the last fight against Feely, he could have easily lost that fight, I think twice, and been finished. I think, you just never know with him. He could be bonked at any moment. Thank you very much, Josh. We'll appreciate that. I think he could get bonked at any moment. And I think that in this fight against Naimov, that's Naimov. So he's got very, very strong hands. He's got very quick hands. The problem in the really interesting part, where I think that this fight could get really interesting, is if Wood really proactively grapples, if he really goes hard wrestling, I think Naimov is not a good defensive wrestler and grappler, and I think he's a solid offensive grappler. So, and it really depends on who he's going against. I think he can be taken down, and his second layer of defending takedowns and things like that, the guys that can chain him together. I just don't think that he's great in defending takedowns. So if Wood really proactively grapples, I think that that's going to make, his life a lot easier. But I do think on the feet, I feel like he'll probably, it'll probably be a close decision where Wood wins. But, I'd be leaning on the Wood side. I again, like I said, I can't get to a bet with him, because I just feel like it's always any moment. I like to bet his fights live, because it's just they go back and forth, and he has moments so many times where he goes back and forth. So you get a lot of plus numbers on both sides. So I'll be looking to bet this one live for sure. And I do think that if Wood grapples and proactively grapples a lot, I do think that this, even though Naimov has not been subbed, I do feel like the sub might be live for Wood.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I like Wood. I bet Naimov in his last fight against Malarkey. I didn't think he had much of a shot, but I did think he had the one punch knockout ability, and he did it. He knocked out Malarkey, cashed me a ticket that probably was not going to cash otherwise. I'm just not overly impressed with him. If this wasn't such a big size difference, I was never a fan of Wood moving up here. I don't think it's the move. He's going to be at a big size disadvantage to a lot of people, and it's going to be present here as well. I mean, Naimov's about Andre Feely's height, so it's nothing he hasn't really seen, but it's not something I like. But at the same time, I think Feely's a much better fighter than Naimov and presents a lot more problems to a guy like Nathaniel Wood. Naimov, in my opinion, just has that power. I don't love his striking at all. I don't love the technique behind it. The takedown defense isn't great, but at the same time, it's Jamie Malarkey and Colin Anglin. I know Anglin's not great, but they're both bigger guys, where Wood is a much smaller fella. Is he going to have the same success taking him down? Probably, but I think it might take more attempts for him, and it might be a little difficult to hold him down. But on the feet, look, at range, Naimov will land probably easier just because he's bigger, but Wood, he's really good at closing that range. He's really good at cutting up the cage, backing guys up. He's probably one of the smartest guys on the roster in terms of just how fight IQ and what he's doing in there. Watching the Jourdain fight was just a work of art. That dirty boxing was so clean, and the way he would just slide his leg in and trip him down. He's just so good at everything he does, and the main concern with him is just that chin. But it's also is it really that bad? I mean, he got knocked out, I know, by Dotson, but that was back in 2020. And Dotson, dude, is explosive as hell, and he's still killing it in bare knuckle, if I'm not mistaken. And then after that, he hadn't been dropped until the Feely fight. And again, Feely's a really solid striker with power himself and another bigger guy. So I'm not ready to throw that out the window. Now, all that said, I'm not parlaying him at minus 330. I did snag him randomly last week. Like the line just came down. He was minus 270. So I parlayed him with Terrence McKinney, who cashed, and Paul Hughes in Cage Warriors, who cashed. So I've got a 1.1 unit bet on what's his face on Wood to win. I mean, at minus 104. So not a big stake, but at minus 270, I thought that was a fair price to parlay. I wouldn't go too crazy at this point, though. Minus 330. I do think he's a much better fighter, but the size is always going to be a problem for me here at featherweight. All right, we can move on. This is my main event of the week. A lot of people have given me some weird looks for my play on this fight, and the odds have moved against me, so we'll see. But we've got Anshul Jubli versus Mike Breeden. Jubli is 7-0. He's undefeated, 28 years old. He's 6 feet tall with a 69-inch reach. Believe he's over at Tiger Muay Thai Bang Tao, but I can't confirm that. Breeden 10-6-0. He's 34. He's going to be 6 years older, 2 inches shorter at 5'10" and have a 1-inch reach advantage. I'll start us off here. So when I saw the line, I immediately slapped 4 units on minus 400 on Jubli. Like, that's how confident I am in this guy. I've been super high on him since Road to UFC. I was taping him for that fight with what was his name? Kyung Pyo Kim. I actually thought that Kim was going to win that fight. I ended up passing just because I liked Jubli. And I thought Jubli looked really good there. Really good output, really good striking. He did get taken down a few times, but good get-ups and good takedown defense overall. And, Kim's not a bad fighter at all. That's a solid dude there. And then Jekka Saragi cashed big there. That was a beautiful performance. He showed off the grappling. He showed off the striking. I think he's an actual prospect with an actual high ceiling and who's already got a bunch of skills, and he's really well-rounded. And he's fighting a guy in Mike Breeden who, to me, he's just a feeder. He's just a feeder fish for the UFC. They're just throwing him around. Here's Alex Hernandez. Oh, here's Natan Levy. Maybe you can win this one. Nope. Okay, here's Terrence McKinney. Go die again. I don't think they're flying him out here to finally get a W over Anshul Jubli. And I know a lot of people are high on him. Maybe you are, Tim. I know you like the big plus numbers. I get maybe the angle. He's a decent striker with really solid output. He's got that dog in him, and he will bring the pressure. But that's about all I got with him. Like, technique, skill-wise, on the feet, I think it's Jubli. Grappling is easy, Jubli. If Levy's taking you down that many times, I really think Jubli's going to have a much easier time on the ground with you. Also a much more physical and bigger guy than a guy like Natan Levy. I just think it's a terrible matchup for Breeden. I've got those 4 units straight like an idiot. And then I've got him parlayed up with Dudakova for 2 units. That came out to minus 165. This is when Dudakova was minus 345, guys, not minus 600. Not parlaying Dudakova minus 600. And then I've got him in one more that I'll talk about when we get there. How about you, Tim?
Yeah, this is that is I was actually shocked because I thought when you were talking about your bet, I didn't know what you had, so I thought you might be on the Breeden side, but no, man, I can't bet Breeden here for the same reasons. Like I love, like you said, I love big plus numbers, and this is just, I don't know, I just don't think he's very UFC level. I think this is kind of similar to the Jinh Frey, like we were just talking about, like just a kind of a setup fight. Where I disagree is I don't know about Jubli yet. So like I think that he's, shown skills that I like, but I don't think that, like the Jacket fight, I'm like, I think that fight was just a classic mismatch and a horrible, like just comically off line in hindsight. And yeah, I mean, Breeden with the Levy fight, that was interesting as well. Just like Levy gassed hard and he had a chance to come back a little bit on him. And I just think that Levy is just overrated in general. And I haven't really liked him. I've lost on Levy by sub prop like 2 times, and it was just horrible. I think I'm Breeden. I think I had him by sub against Breeden. I'm like, dude, I think he'll be able to get him down, and I'm just be aggressive on the ground. And dude, he just does nothing. Where I feel like Jubli in this fight, if he gets to the ground, I feel like he'll be more aggressive at passing and trying to get to really dominant positions and probably get the finish here. But yeah, no, like tremendous confidence to parlay him or anything at this point, but yeah, good luck on your bets.
Gonna need it. Thank you. But honestly, like out of all the chalk we're gonna talk, he's pretty much the one I was most comfortable with. And if you guys agree with me, he's currently minus 300, and it's going down. People are really playing Breeden, so you're gonna get a much better line than I did. And honestly, if it gets down to minus 250, I might add a little myself. For me, Jubli Breeden is what people expect Basharat Henry to look like. That's what I think. But we can move on to our next fight. I can't agree with the line, Daz. I think it's a very fair line. We'll see, though. Moving on, we've got Sedriques Dumas versus Abu Azaitar. Dumas 8-1-0. He's 28 years old, 6'2" with a 79-inch reach. On the other side, you got Azaitar 14-3-1, 37 at this point. He's going to be 9 years older. He's going to be 5'9", so he's going to be at a, hold on, I got a math, a 6-inch reach height disadvantage, if I'm not mistaken. And then he's going to have a 3-inch reach disadvantage. Why don't you start us off, Tim?
This is an absolute shit show. There's a couple of shit shows on this card, and I think that this is one where both these guys are guys that I've faded like hard, and I had one of my favorite bets early in my betting career with Barrio round 3 prop versus Azaitar, and I just that fight is an interesting fight for kind of like I think that it's very similar. Like there's a couple parts where I think it's different than this fight with how Dumbass fights compared to Barrio, but I feel like Azaitar had some really good moments against Barrio in the first round. And then as soon as Barrios tried to grapple and started grappling him, it was like just donezo. So for me, it's like, does Dumbass come out and try to like really proactively grapple this guy, or is he going to strike with him? And, he's probably going to like outlast him and probably get a finish in the second or third round, I would guess for Dumbass. But I don't know though, to be honest. I had one of my better bets was Fremd against him at a huge line and money line, and then by sub as well. So yeah, I feel like I don't know. I don't want to bet this fight. Probably won't bet this fight, but yeah, I feel like it's probably dumbass or pass for me.
By the way, Daz, it was years ago. He last fought 2.5 years ago. So the whole potato, I can't believe they just let that go with the potato thing. Dana was just like, what? Take that story and just run with it. Absolute insanity. But for me, like, this is the past fight. I want nothing to do with this fight at all. I might end up with some spots. I've got a few I'll talk about in a sec. But first off, I do want to parlay fight doesn't go. It's a surprising price. It's like minus 200. And I guess that's because Dumas showed like no ability to finish Brundage there in their last fight. But this is going to be really different because like Azaitar just dies. He completely just death gasses. I was watching back the tape, and in the first round, I was like, okay, maybe we got something here. And then it just falls right off a cliff. He doesn't fight often at all. You look at his Instagram, it doesn't really look like he's over here training. He's 37 years old. You have to think they are trying to give him a win. He's definitely the hometown guy. They're bringing him a guy in Dumas who is certainly not high level, but it's still kind of a rough matchup for him because a guy like Dumas, he will have cardio. That will hold up. It's going to be much bigger. Maybe he won't be stronger, but he'll be more physical. I think the takedowns will come relatively easily if he goes for those. Ground game will be there. He just has to not get clipped by Azaitar in the first round, which is a possibility for sure. The body shots of Azaitar are great. If he could keep up that pace, he'd be a decent fighter. The thing is, though, like while he's good offensively, defensively, he's horrible also. So there's really not much upside there other than like a knockout or like a really nice hit to the body. And I have a hard time seeing him close up the range with Dumas without getting taken down. So for me, it's going to be parlaying that fight doesn't go if I can actually get it at minus 200. And then maybe some Dumas late props, round 2, round 3. I do think he wins, and I do think Azaitar fades. So those are going to be the things I look at. Prices kind of suck right now, though, so I want to see what other books give us.
He's the shitty Azaitar too, so it's like, and the better Azaitar is like dog shit as well. So I feel like, I just, again, like Sedriques is not a guy that, I mean, I might be wrong on it, but I haven't rated him too high. Even in like the Contender Series fight that he won, and I was just like, I don't know, I just was never really super super high on the guy. Maybe it's the personal shit that I'm like rating him the wrong way, but whatever. I just think that I want to get like other people that are of the Fremd level against him, where we can like fade him again and see it there. But I think it should be his spot for sure.
Yeah, if he wins this one, we'll definitely get a nice fade spot the next one, especially if he gets a finish. That would be great. Set us up for the next fight. Moving on, though, we've got Javid Basharat versus Victor Henry. Basharat 14-0 undefeated. He's going to be 28 years old, 5'9" with a 69-inch reach. He does train out of Extreme Couture. Henry 23, 6-0. He's 36, so he's going to be 8 years older. 2 inches shorter, 1 inch reach disadvantage for him. Can't tell exactly where he trains based off his Instagram. Steve, what am I hiding? Just my tremendous head. I just have a really big head. That's all. That's why I like to wear hats. But yeah, I'll start us off here. And look, I get why people like Basharat in general. I think he's a stud. I think he's a prospect. I think he'll be top 15, if not higher, probably top 10. I think he'll be in the UFC for a long, long time. He's only 28 years old. I don't see him collecting a ton of losses. But I mean, this line is it's pretty insane. Minus 625. We're talking what, like 85% of the time you expect him to win that fight. And like, he's not fighting a bum. He's fighting Victor Henry, who is really good too. Like, I understand he had that one performance against the Sun Sao. Almost everybody has that performance against the Sun Sao where they just don't look that great. I don't know what it is, but to me, that was a bad performance on the side of Henry. And I don't think that represents him as a fighter. In his other 2 fights, Barcelos and Gravely, he showed a ton of output. The striking is really good. He's got really good pressure. He can offensively wrestle. He hasn't done it in the UFC. He's done it on the regionals. But his takedown defense is really good, and he's really very solid at scrambling. He can reverse positions. He can take your back when he was the one underneath you. So he's just very well-rounded, extremely experienced. He's fought all around the world, had a ton of fights over, I believe, in Rizin, or another Japanese promotion, if I'm mistaken there. And like on the Basharat side, he's a really solid striker, very accurate. He's good at using his range so he can stay safe. That's why his striking defense is so good. I also think his striking defense is so good just because of the guys he's fighting, to be completely honest. Oren Calon, terrible, terrible fighter and just a trash human being. Trevin Jones, who doesn't throw anything at all. Tony Gravely, a wrestler who just has big power hooks. And Mateus Mendoza, who is undersized and also has essentially just power hooks and power shots. So while it's impressive that he's been able to avoid all that, survive, and have a 60% striking defense, I don't think that's super reflective. And I also think that when it's up close, when it's up in the pocket, I'm actually not that impressed with him. Gravely was landing a bunch in the pocket. Mendoza was landing a bunch in the pocket. When they're up close, it doesn't look like Basharat is this like way better striker. It's at range when he's using those front kicks, keeping them away, using that teep kick, mixing it up. That's when he looks really good. And then when it goes to the ground, that's also when he looks really good. He's a very good offensive wrestler. He can be taken down. His takedown defense, I would say, is not as good as Henry's, but he's very good at reversing positions, a very good scrambler. His jiu-jitsu is very, very solid. So is Henry's, though. Long story short, for me, I don't think the gap in skill here is too wide at all, and I feel like the line is very incorrect. I think that Basharat, like I mentioned, he's not that great up close, and a guy like Henry, he's pressure. He's not going to make it easy for Basharat to just skirt around and use those kicks and use his range. He's going to make him uncomfortable, and then if Javid's uncomfortable, he's going to shoot, and Henry's not going to be easy there either. So for me, I'll pick Basharat just because I get why he is the favorite. But my play is the spread. I took the spread plus 3.5 at plus 195. I thought that price was pretty generous. I put a half unit on it. I honestly don't hate his money line either, especially if it keeps climbing. I mean, plus 450, money's still coming in on Javid. I love big dogs, but I don't play them unless I can see a clear way that they can win. And I can really see a clear way here for Henry to win. This is not a bum he's facing that Javid is facing, and I think he presents a lot of problems for him. Definitely his stiffest test. So, what are you thinking, Tim?
Yeah, it's again spot on breakdown. I mean, I agree with a lot of what you said. I gonna kind of be an echo chamber with some of the stuff here. Like, I'll first of all say that I think that Javid wins the fight. Like, I feel that he's a deserved favorite, but the line is just out of whack, and I think that the books have no idea how to line Victor Henry fights, like, at all. They have no fucking clue, because he's given them no like baseline at all. Like, he's not consistent with his performances. A Sun Tzu's really tough to get any type of volume off. So I think that against anybody. So I actually had a really big bet on a Sun Tzu versus him. Sun Tzu by points too. It was glorious. That was a good bet. But I also had a huge bet on Barcelos in parlays and shit, like just everything against Victor Henry by points, just everything. And he just that was like his best performance by far ever. And dude just constantly poking out volume, and just the amount of strikes that he got off on him, especially looking at like how Barcelos has looked in some of the fights after that. He's looked pretty good. So it's like that was a great look. The Gravely fight, I think, was all right. Like, I think that he was kind of like, that was like the baseline where we're at, like kind of the average point. But the same thing, that's like, this fight goes to decision is like such a high clip in my mind that it's like, okay, you got a guy that's going to try to stay at range, is going to be skirting around, versus a guy that's going to be trying to walk him forward and try to get in the pocket and throw strikes and be really aggressive. And like you said, it's not like, at range, Javid's really, really solid at striking defense at range is insane. It's like really, really good. But when he starts to get engaged in any of these he doesn't do it often, but when he starts to get engaged in any type of firefight, he can't be hit. I think the durability on both guys is really, really solid. So it's like, fight goes I'm really hoping that like DK messes up and throws like a ends by split line at something stupid. And then I'll just probably take a shot. But yeah, it seems weird, but it's like, if he peaks, if this is like a peak Victor Henry fight, this fight could be super close, and a lot of people are going to be like clenching their buttholes for their parlays on Javid.
Yeah, I think he's one of the most live guys to bust the parlays, and that's why I wanted no Javid parlays whatsoever. And I love my parlays.
Yeah, I've had Javid. Like, just the problem too is like when you get a huge line in these fighters, and then you say, well, is he gonna like proactively grapple a ton? Like, nope. Like, he might, but he probably not. And it's like, is he gonna like? Does he have incredible finishing equity at any point? Like, either by sub or by one punch knockout power or whatever. It's like, not really. He hasn't shown that at all in the UFC, and he's not finishing guys that are absolutely getting fucking killed by other guys. Like, so to me, it's like, so you got a guy that's pretty much going to go to decision, fights predominantly standing, and he's fighting another guy that's incredibly durable and well-rounded as well. So it's like, could he look and could he cover this line? For sure, he could cover the line. But I just think he's going to have to do a fucking hell of a lot to cover this line, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he probably wins, but I really have a hard time seeing him cover. Minus 650 now. We're getting a little crazy, but
it's just absurd.
We can move on. Next up, we've got Muhammad Yahya versus Trevor Peek. Yahya is 12-3-0. Don't have his age. He's 5'9" with a 73-inch reach. On the other side, Peek, he's 8-1-0. 28, he's 5'9" as well. He's going to have a 3-inch reach disadvantage here. Start us off, Tim. This
is a classic, man. This is stoppable force versus movable object here, in my opinion. So Yahya is like more technical, probably just like a cleaner striker. If you're looking at stuff and you're like not really super impressed by what I saw from him. And then you got Peek, who's like throwing tomahawk punches at guys, not in combination, like in actual combination tomahawk punches. And to me, it's like, I don't want to bet a lot on this fight, but I think that it's probably a Peek KO 1-2. You could probably, if Yahya wins this fight, I mean, it's probably a greasy decision, something like that, because I just think Peek's durability is pretty solid. Yahya, just how he reacts to punches, and how, like, even when he's getting subbed, he's getting bonked and then he's getting subbed. So I just don't think that Trevor's not going to hit him with something stupid in the first 2 rounds. So kind of lean that, but again, it's one of those fights where this is just going to be entertainment. This is an absolute get the popcorn out. This is not going to be where I cook Wagyu steak. This is, enjoy this fight.
Yeah, no matter what happens here, they need to make McKinney Peek next. We all need to see that fight. It's bound to happen. It's already written. We're just waiting. When I first saw this fight and I looked at the record of Yahya, I saw he was a champion at UAE. I was like, okay, I'll fade Peek with pretty much anybody who can fight normally, because I love Peek and he's got a ton of power, but technique-wise, he's kind of absolute crap. And the decision-making is horrible. It's hilarious because not only does he throw standing hammer fists, but he feints them. He'll literally feint the hammer fist. Like, the dude strikes like no one else you've ever seen. And if Yahya didn't have tall man's defense, I probably would play him here as the underdog. He's the home guy. You have to think that they're at least trying to get him a win. For them, this is a win-win, in my opinion. Because either Yahya wins and the hometown guy gets the victory, or Peek brutally knocks out another person, hypes up everyone, and that's good for business too. Yahya, he's an okay striker. Good at range. Gonna be the rangier guy here. But he's got the tall man's defense. Chin up in the air. He's not really moving laterally well. He's going to get backed up. And, like, you're going to need a guy like Chepe Mariscal, who can calm it down by wrestling a little bit, calm that pace down. Even Malik Lewis did in the Contender Series. Like, you need to stop him from doing all this shit. So you have to put him on the ground to do that. And Yahya can grapple, but it's really not that great. And while Peek's takedown defense is not elite by any means, he's got good hips and he's got a lot of power and he's decent at keeping it up on the feet. I don't see Yahya really wrestling with him, and maybe he can outpoint him to a decision if he can survive, but I think sooner or later Peek bonks him. Should you be playing Peek at minus 150? I really don't think that's a smart decision. I missed out on the money line being plus money. Great play there, in my opinion, but I just took the knockout plus 125 for a half unit. No crazy investment. It's what I think happens here more than likely. So that's what I'm going to do. But I'm never risking a lot betting on Peek. Maybe one day I'll risk a lot betting against Peek, but it's not going to be in this fight. Moving on, though, we've got a really interesting fight. We've got Tim Elliott versus Mohammad Mokaev. Elliott is 19-12-1. He's 36 years old, 5'7" with a 66-inch reach. Not sure where he trains these days. Mokaev, he's 9-0, undefeated. 23 years old. He's going to be 13 years younger. Same height, 4-inch reach advantage for him. And he's training out of KHK MMA team. We just saw 2 of their guys on the Contender Series. Talho was one of them. Stunk. Then the other guy, I forget his name. He was kind of stunk too. And then they had that one heavyweight who's good. It's a good camp for grappling, but I'll start us off here. First off, I want to mention, like, Mokaev's on a 33-fight win streak, counting his amateurs. He's never, ever lost, and that's, like, insanely impressive. And he's a stud, and he's a prospect. That said, I feel like Tim Elliott is a pretty whack matchup for them to give him in Abu Dhabi. Like, should Mokaev win this? Yes. But, like, if you told me who's a lower-level guy who can actually give him problems, I would say Elliott. Because Tim Elliott, in my opinion, is one of the best counter grapplers there is in the UFC. I'm not saying best takedown defense. I'm saying counter grappling. Just the way they make it really hard to take them down, and they make it even harder to keep them down. It's just what he does. Aliskerov, an amazing wrestler, very, very similar style to Mokaev. Struggled with him, struggled in the grappling. I believe Elliott's the one who was getting more takedowns. in the Ulanbekov fight. Similar story. It was a close fight. I had money on Ulanbekov. Felt like he won that one, but it's these fights that are important because he's fighting very solid wrestlers and he's beating them at their own game and he's not allowing them to do what they're comfortable with. And his striking, is it great? No, but it's there. He can strike and he's really annoying and he's got good output. Mokaev on the feet, he's not that great yet. I think he still has a lot to improve in the feet. The grappling is elite, the wrestling is elite, the jiu-jitsu is elite, but the striking, it's a lot of kicks, a little bit of the hands, and that's just about it. And while he is this great grappler, he's not being that impressive. Like the Cody Durden sub, yes, but how about Charles Johnson, right? Took him down 12 times, but couldn't hold him down to save his life. There's a reason he got 12 takedowns there, because he couldn't hold them there. Usually when you see those kinds of numbers, it's because the guy keeps getting back up. And that's exactly what Charles Johnson did, and Mokaev couldn't really do much damage. Against Gordon, that was a pretty meh performance, and he almost got submitted himself. Same story in the Filio fight. He should win. He's the rightful favorite, but I think the line is super wide. I took Tim Elliott for a half-unit shot at plus 400. I wish I waited for the spread because the spread's like plus 240, and I honestly would have just played that because then you only need him to win one round and not get finished, and I think there's a good likelihood of that. But I'll stick with my money line. It's a small shot, small half-unit shot, but I think this is a really difficult matchup for Mokaev, and I'm interested in how it's going to play out. How about you, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. In the Ulanbekov fight was like that was really, really close. I had a Elliot by split decision prop at like 16-1 on that. And that was heartbreaking because I was like, dude, if he wins this fight, this is a split for sure. And then he comes out and he absolutely cheats his ass off and then gets a unanimous decision. So it was kind of heartbreaking. Where I think that this fight is interesting is just the level of Tim is like his level changes so much depending on who he's fighting. Like the guys that he's beating, in my opinion, are not really that great. I don't think that the Ulanbekov fight was like, I don't think that he won it, but I thought that he cheated multiple times as well as like, and I get it. Like if you're not treating, you're not trying, and like they have to call him on that shit. But like the things that he did legit changed the outcome of how that fight would have gone if he did not do the things that he was doing. So like, I feel like that would have changed that outcome. So I feel like Tim Elliott's like not a guy that I want to be like betting against fighters that I think are really solid. And I feel like the grapplers that he fights against that are solid, like high-end fighters, he loses to almost every time, and he gets subbed by a lot of them. So the one that surprised me, as you said, was Aliskerov not subbing him. I think, though, Aliskerov has times where he just does not perform well and kind of just goes bottom, like just basement performance. And I think that was kind of his basement performance there against Elliot. But I think like Elliot against like a lot of these guys, like just Royval, Figueiredo, those are top-notch dudes, and they're just working him in these scrambles, and like guillotines are live against him from a lot of guys catch him with it. So I just feel like that is one of Mokaev's moves that he goes for. He's just super basic. It's just like, it's not like his jiu-jitsu is like slick and anything like it. It's just basic back take shit, just basic like guillotine, solid front chokes, and just I feel like eventually he's going to sub him. I feel like eventually he's going to catch him in something, but wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't and he wins a decision either. But I feel like eventually Mokaev's going to probably catch him in something.
Wouldn't be too shocking. There's a reason I kept it a half unit, but plus 400 had to take the shot. We can move on though to our next fight. We've got Saeed Nurmagomedov versus Muin Gafurov. Nurmagomedov, he's 17-3-0, 31 years old, 5'8" with a 70-inch reach. Gafurov on the other side, he's 18-5-0. He's going to be 4 years younger at 27, 1 inch shorter, and he's going to have a 2-inch reach disadvantage. Why don't you start us off, Tim?
Good fight here. I think that I think that the fight goes to decision a decent amount unless a couple of things happen. I think the finishing upside, maybe like a finish only prop for Nurmagomedov would be good. I think Gafurov I think he got dropped by Anheliger. Did Castaneda also drop him down? Or do you know?
Let me check the stats.
Okay, because I thought he did early in the fight, but I might be wrong. But I know that Anheliger did, and it's like it's not a good sign. I think also
Castaneda dropped him too.
Yeah, I was hearing somebody on a podcast this week saying that Gafurov is like chin is super great, and he's all these different things just because he hasn't been knocked out. But it's like, dude, he's been knocked down a bunch, and that Said is very flashy with his strike. So I feel like the finishing upside is mainly a sub from Nurmagomedov, but probably like he could connect on one of his spinning kicks or something flashy because that's pretty much what he does. Nurmagomedov is 8-3 in decisions, and Gafurov is 1-5 in decisions. I think it's pretty huge in this fight that I think the decision is where the fight usually probably it's going to go. In my mind, it's probably like a 80-20 that its fight goes, maybe 75-25. But like, so if the fight goes and you get just guys historically that are, I would be like more interested in getting maybe on Muin live after round one if I feel like you see some serious gassing from Said, but I'm not interested in taking a shot at that line pre-fight for him. And I do think that most of the finishing upside is on Nurmagomedov. I feel like if Muin tries to grapple, the sub is going to be very live. I just think that the front chokes are super solid for Nurmagomedov. I mean, like getting Said Kakhmanov, like he's a way better grappler than Gafurov. And like the fact that he not only caught him later on in the fight, but he got him in the first round, and he almost caught him in the first round too. So I feel like he's really dangerous in his front choke series. And if Gafurov makes that mistake, he will get caught, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've got a similar read. I like Nurmagomedov here a lot. I'm not a huge fan of his in general, just because I don't like the flashy kicking stuff. I really don't. I prefer not to back fighters like that. That's why I don't have any desire to bet Shara in that opening fight. But he does mix in the hands decent once he starts doing it. Like, he's got good hands. He's got really good striking. He's very fast. And at least the spinning stuff works. You know, it is pretty nasty. It's nice to the body. And he can wrestle as well. He's got good takedown defense. And when he is getting taken down, he's very solid at scrambling. The Kakhmanov fight was a tough one. I had Kakhmanov there. It was so brutal the way that ended. But that's why I kind of feel like I have a hard time seeing Gafurov win, because at range, is he going to be better? Is he going to find more success? Probably not. He will throw more and he might hit pretty hard, but I think Said's much more technical. I think he's good at evading strikes and moving and setting up his own range. And I think it's going to be hard for Gafurov to get into his own range and land those shots up close. And then if Gafurov chooses to wrestle, I think he's going to get subbed with the front choke really quickly. I think it'll be a matter of seconds once he shoots. So for me, it's Said. I ended up parlaying him with my guy Jubli. I did that for 1.5 units, came out to minus 117. This is when Jubli was minus 405. Wish I waited, but it's okay. I like the spot. I was going to play Nurmagomedov money line, but then I was feeling reckless with Jubli, so I just threw that together. I'm very confident in Jubli, and I'm relatively confident in Nurmagomedov. My only issue with him is the output. You know, the output with the hands. I wouldn't be tremendously shocked if Gafurov was able to bring it to him, use his output, pressure him, maybe land some really nice shots. But I think more often than not, Said wins this, and I think he wins it inside the distance. Moving on, though, we've got Ikram Aliskerov versus Warlley Alves. Ikram, he's 14-1-0, 30 years old. He's 6 feet tall with the 76-inch reach. On the other side, you got Alves, 14-6-0, 2 years older at 32. He's going to be 1 inch shorter at 5'11" and have a 4-inch reach disadvantage. I'll start us off here. I kind of think Aliskerov is like overrated quite a bit, to be completely honest. The Phil Haas knockout, to me, that's impressive because I rate Phil Haas way more than other people do. I know there's chin concerns and all that, but I think Phil Hawes is actually a really good fighter. So that was clean. But at the same time, Phil Hawes was landing a lot there as well. And then the Mario Sousa fight, right? He was getting hit so much, and his striking defense is 40%. Now, granted, Sousa is a very long, rangy guy, and Alves is not. So maybe it won't be the same there. It'll be more similar to the Hawes fight where Alves has to get in close where it's dangerous. But like for me, Aliskerov's hittable. The cardio is questionable. He's had some interesting performances. The Nishan Burrell one, and most importantly, the Chad Hanekom fight where he just looked not great at all. But his striking is really clean. His counters are even cleaner. Very fast. The wrestling is, I'd say, elite. And the submission grappling is also really, really good, the way he sets it up. Just my main concerns are the cardio and the lack of output on the feet. I don't think he throws enough. Now, a guy in Alves, honestly, like once I started running his tape, I was like, maybe we've got a dog shot over here. Maybe we got something. And then he keeps dying. Then he just keeps falling off a cliff after round 2. And I'm like, damn it. Because if he could do that for 3 rounds, I'd bet him here at these odds. I think Aliskerov's really good, but I think he's a little overrated. And I think he's liable to some bad performances and some bad decisions in the cage. But yeah, at this point, I know Alvarez is only 32. He's only 2 years older, but in like fight years, I'd say he's like 50 years old at this point. And I think that's important. I think he's going to get clipped a lot in fights, and I think that's going to happen here. I think he can get taken down. His takedown defense is pretty solid, but once he gets tired, it's going to fall away. I don't want to parlay Aliskerov at minus 600. I really don't. He should win, but like I said, I'm just not impressed. I'm unimpressed, and the only way I want to do this is round 2, round 3, Aliskerov. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to wait, going to see what the domestics give us, and I'm more than likely going to play that because I do think Alves will unfortunately fall off. But, I mean, in that first round, I think we're going to have some fun because I think Alves is going to come out there, and I think he's going to bring it to him, and Aliskerov gets hit a lot, guys. He gets hit a lot. So that's what I'm thinking. How about you, Tim?
Yeah, I'm hoping that Warlley has a moment that he just in the first round, and then they drop the line, like the live line on Ikram, like to something bettable, and then I'll bet it with a lot of money. So I just think, like you said, hopefully a live bet to get in on some money line in the first round to have some equity there, and then having a pre-bet on round 2. Very small bet maybe on round 3. All of Warlley's finished losses are in round 2. And when he falls off the cliff, he falls off hard. And so it's just a question of, does his opponent have finishing equity? And then I think with Aliskerov that he does. So, yeah. He can finish really anyway, too. So you can finish him ground and pound. You can finish him on the feet. You can finish him by subbing him. So there's that to me is all I need to see. Probably will take a small stab on like inside the distance for him. I don't know, man. If they hang like a good sub line, I think I'll take a stab. But we'll see.
Plus 195 is the best on the market for the sub.
That's gross.
Yeah. Even like the round props. Round 3. The best you can get is plus 900 right now on Bet Rivers. And then round 2, best you can get is Bet Online plus 340, which is like whack. But like I'm still gonna play it because I think that's exactly what's gonna happen. But yeah, I think I might. This is a parlay I might do. I wasn't gonna add any more, but I might parlay him inside the distance with Dumas Azaitar fight doesn't go. Yeah. I think that'll come close to even money, and I think that's a pretty solid parlay right there. So
I agree.
I'll give that out on here, and we can move on. Next up, we've got Magomed Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker. Ankalaev, he's 18-1-1, 31 years old. He's 6'3" with a 75-inch reach. On the other side, Walker, he's 21-7-0, 31 as well. He's going to be 3 inches taller at 6'6", with a 7-inch reach advantage with an 82-inch reach. Why don't you start us off, Tim?
The Ankalaev fights, as well as Johnny Walker fights, are always just like, I love attacking props, and I feel like they can be really, they've killed some props, like, and they killed like prop parlays and all this different things with these guys, because you really don't know what you're going to get with Ankalaev, like how he's going to come out and fight. People were always, they're talking about I thought that he won versus Jan, but the guy just doesn't fight to like optimal winning paths, like over and over and over. You just can't, like, I remember the Santos fight as well. It's just like, fucking take him down. Like, what are you doing standing with this dude? Like, this is just moronic. Like, take him down. Like, it's so easy. And the blueprint is like, and the assignment just seems like stupidly easy. And over, the guy just doesn't go that route. So to me, it's like really hard to, I think he wins the fight. And it's the same thing, but it's like these guys that fight this way, I just hate betting with them. And I think he's a fantastic fighter. I think that he's like, there's not a lot of holes in his game at all, technically speaking. But like, dude, fight IQ and like what your decisions are, your tactical decisions are just such a huge thing. And just to not be proactively round 1, round 2, trying to grapple like Jan as well. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, what? Like, this is the stupidest thing. He finally like gets his leg chopped off like enough times, and he's like, oh yeah, maybe I don't want to do this. Maybe this is absolutely this guy's strength. And like, so I hate betting on fighters like that. And then you go to Walker, and it's like, okay, this guy is just Jekyll and Hyde. Like, is he going to be the Kavanaugh version where it's like, okay, he's going to be a rangy kickboxer that's going to throw some leg kicks and maybe grapple here and there and try to get fights to go to decision, and literally not like try to like put away Anthony Smith when he could have killed him? Like, or are we going to get just typical Johnny Walker that's going to like come out full rabies mode and, glass cannon mode? So you just don't know with these guys. They're both just super inconsistent with how they perform. Add on top of the fact that Walker can be knocked out literally by any punch if he gets connected on. So it's like the variance in this fight from a prop standpoint is just wild. That being said, there's a huge size advantage, obviously, for Walker typically. And, Ankalaev hits really, I think he hits really hard. He just doesn't like go for it. He just doesn't go for kills a lot of times unless that's like what he wants to do. But you just never know. So I gun ahead, make a pick. It's Ankalaev gets probably a KO, but yeah, I don't feel like I don't know. You just never fucking know with this guy. But I would be on the KO for Ankalaev. But I think he hits hard enough, and I think Walker will probably get hit at some point and then do his chicken dance and then fall out and die.
Yeah, there's one prop that like fight ends inside the distance is -190. Which almost feels like a hammer spot. But at the same time, you got a guy in Ankalaev who, like, either he'll show up and he can knock this guy out clean, or he's just going to not do it and not do much. Or maybe even the grappling, like, he'll just lay on top of him. So, like, that number's screaming to me, but I don't think I'm going to play it. For me, like, when I first saw this fight, I was like, I'm going to parlay the hell out of Ankalaev. This is an amazing matchup for him. And, like, I still think it's a good matchup for him. As long as he stays safe, he's much better technically. He's going to have that wrestling in the back pocket. Walker is super explosive. He's been getting better with the output. He's learning how to fight to decisions. He's becoming a smarter fighter. He uses his range and his weapons really well. The knees, all that funky stuff. Like, he's going to be dangerous on the feet. And I think Ankalaev really should wrestle. It's just a question of, is he going to? So for me, the fight's just too volatile, and there's too many like problems that I don't want to even touch it. I'm not parlaying Ankalaev. I almost bet Walker, but then I looked back at it. I saw the Jamal Hill knockout, that when he turned into the wacky inflatable arm flailing tube man. It was just, yeah, this fight's going to be fun. I do think it finishes. I do think Ankalaev wins dominantly, but it's a fight that I want to stay away from, because I also wouldn't be shocked if Walker caught him with something. The dude has a lot of power, really explosive, and he's gigantic. So I'm going to pass here, but Ankalaev is a pick. All right. We're up to the good stuff. So we've got Khamzat Chimaev versus Kamaru Usman. Usman stepping up on short notice for Paulo Costa, who has now pulled his, third stunt in a row, Costa. I mean, I don't even know what he's doing anymore. But we've got Usman. He's coming up to middleweight. Both of these guys are 23-0 for Usman, 36 years old at this point, 6 feet tall with a 76-inch reach. It appears he is back at Sanford, Killcliff. Chimaev, he's 12-0, 29. He's going to be 7 years younger. 6'2", he's 2 inches taller, 1 inch reach disadvantage for him. Not positive where he's training exactly. I believe it's in Abu Dhabi, but I don't know what gym or what partners. But I'll start us off here. If this was 3 years ago, I would take the dog shot on Usman. And I don't think he's totally done just because he lost to Edwards, not by flash knockout, but also by decision now. But I do think at this point in his career, this is a rough matchup. He's 36. He's got those knee problems. And the reason I bet Leon Edwards in the first fight, and maybe I got lucky, maybe I didn't. I bet his knockout, and there was a very specific read I had. And it was that you watch Usman box, you watch him strike, and what does he constantly do? It's similar to Billy Quarantillo. I make this point also. He ducks his head down. He ducks it to the side. And I really felt like Leon could capitalize on that. Did I think it was going to happen at the end of the fight with almost nothing left and with the crazy story to it? No, I didn't. But that was the read. And I do feel like Usman, he's very liable in the striking, Even Colby Covington, I get it. We all love Kobe, great wrestling output, all that, but he's not a good striker. He just has a lot of output, and he was landing on Usman. He was hurting Usman. I think that Khamzat at this point in his career, he's still young. He's 29. I think it was a good move coming up to middleweight. I think he could have done just fine at welterweight, but he's big, and it looks like he's only filled up even more. I think he's going to be way bigger than Usman. I think he's going to look really, really big. And I think the wrestling is going to be available for him here. I know that Usman's takedown defense is amazing. He did get taken down by Colby Covington. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. And, in the Edwards fight, the one time he did get taken down, Leon went right into full mount. So we don't really know what he's going to look like off his back, right? We essentially have zero information on that other than Leon Edwards being in full mount that one time. That's it. That's all we've got. But I think that Khamzat could put him there. I think that he will put him there. I think he will put him on his back. And I don't know if he's going to have much to offer from there. I really don't. I don't even know how his get-ups really look like. They're probably pretty good. He's an elite wrestler. But I think that Chimaev he's going to be able to hold him down. And I know people keep talking about how Khamzat had that thing with Gilbert. But I think there's an important thing to mention there. Yes, Khamzat fought with bad fight IQ and completely ignored his coaches. But in the beginning of that fight, he took Gilbert down, and he did not like it. There was something there. I don't know jiu-jitsu enough to really understand, but it seemed like he didn't want to be there. So he kept it on the feet. Gilbert Burns is one of the best practitioners in jiu-jitsu there is on the planet. He's one of the best in the world. Kamaru Usman doesn't have that kind of ground game. He's an elite offensive wrestler, but he's not an elite defensive grappler or he's not a guy who's going to be threatening subs here. So if Chimaev has him grounded, and he's not going to be scared to bring it there. And on the feet, like I mentioned, Usman, he can strike too. He's a good striker. Chimaev, he got knocked down by Burns, 2-3 times? He can certainly get hurt, but his striking's pretty crisp. I really like his striking. I think he can hurt Usman. And I think this is his fight. I really do. If this was a few years ago, I think Usman would be live, especially as an underdog. But for me, it's Khamzat or pass. At this line, honestly, I'm not interested. But I did get Khamzat at -180. So I'm pretty happy with that one. I put 2.5 units on it. And yeah, that's what I'm thinking. How about you, Tim?
Yeah, I think that this is a fantastic fight. I can't wait to see it. It's just a great matchup. Striking, I think, is more even than people are people I've been talking to are been Usman's going to dominate him in the striking or just keep a range. And it's the same thing about the Burns fight that he looked like shit against Burns. And the statement you made about when he went down on the ground with Burns, he took him down twice, but it was the sub attempt. As soon as he defended the first sub attempt, he absolutely wanted no part of it anymore. Like that was where the fight completely changed. I wanted to see, like, that's what I wanted to see more, is like, I wanted to see like, okay, what happens in the ground with Burns versus Chimaev. That was like, going into that fight, I was so excited about that exact same thing. And then once that happened, I was like, oh shit, he wants nothing to do with him on the ground. Nothing at all to do with him on the ground. He could take him down at will, and he wants to do nothing. He didn't want to do it. So to me, that was a huge, huge sign of like, yeah, he's afraid of the Burns jits, but he fucking should be. Like that would give that off of his back. You get with Burns, you're like, yeah, dude, he could fucking kill you. You have with Usman on his back, you have a wrestler on his back. You like, just like, this is basically the best scenario that you could have, versus a guy that's going to be just so big. I think if anybody wrestle fucks anybody, it's Chimaev wrestle fucking Usman. And I don't see Usman wrestle fuck. I just think that Usman's a good, very, very good defensive wrestler. I don't think he's a great offensive wrestler. I think he's like good. But his defensive wrestling is stellar. The type of takedown that Leon Edwards did was a body lock trip. It wasn't a single, like, it wasn't a powered up. It wasn't anything like that where it's like, but it was a body lock. Like, you telling me that if Leon Edwards hits a body lock trip, that fucking Chimaev can't get a body lock trip against him? Like, he could do so many different types of takedowns to get potentially on him. So initially I was thinking that this fight was like, it would be harder for both guys to grapple each other. And then the more I kept looking into it and going into it, I'm like, no, I think he's gonna have success with the wrestling. And if he doesn't, then I think it's, it could be closer on the feet. It might be a fight that goes or something like that. But like the finishing upside, I feel is for Chimaev. And I feel like if anybody's going to wrestle fuck, or if anybody's going to like KO anybody in this fight, I feel like it's Chimaev. So yeah, I lean him on the side. I think that the line is fine. And you got the short notice, majorly short notice. Both are going up weight, but one guy is like just not supposed to be at that weight. So yeah, I think Chimaev is the side. And I do think that eventually I'll think that he finishes him. I'll say that he finishes Usman here.
Yeah, I could see it. I could definitely see it happening. But all right, we can move on to our main event, and I am super hyped for this one. We've got Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski, the second fight. Islam 24-1-0. He's 31 years old, 5'10" with the 70-inch reach. We all know where he trains. Volkanovski 26-2-0, 35 years old, 4 years older. Going to be 4 inches shorter, 1 inch reach advantage for him. And we all know where he trains. Why don't you start us off, Tim?
Again, just like these matchups, these rematches are fantastic. This is, they're never the same as the first fight. So like, there's only like a certain, I just like look back at all these different trilogies and shit like that. And you're just like, oh my God, this is just nothing like the first fight or the second fight. So it's really interesting, with that in mind, like what's going to happen in this fight then. If you think that the fight's going to be different, then how is it going to be different? Short notice, all the different, like every factor to me, like just screams like major advantage for Islam in this situation compared to the last fight. I mean, he's home turf, doesn't have to get acclimated to anything, totally regular time to train, short notice versus now traveling, having to get acclimated to the climate. For Volk, I think also like if anybody's going to make adjustments, like, and be able to, neither one is like preparing for either one of them for a long period of time. But if anybody's going to make like short-term adjustments in what they're doing, I think it's Islam that can do that quicker than Volk coming in and being like, oh yeah, I have all of the grappling techniques and all of the drills that I had to do to make sure that I was just completely on point to fight this dude. It has to be done the same way. Like he's got to fight another perfect fight defensively grappling to win the fight. So in my mind, I just think it's going to be a tough ask. I think like this is a clear, if Volk wins, this is just locking up GOAT status. So yeah, I just think like for me, it's Islam. Whether or not Islam finishes to me is kind of like really 50-50. I've heard some people say that Volk is impossible to sub. I don't necessarily agree. So I just feel like the positions that Islam got the last fight, you know, he wasn't really able to do as much with them. He had a couple of good positions, but I don't know. I feel like he'll possibly be able to get a better position. I would never put it like, I guarantee he's going to finish a Volkanovski level fighter, but it's kind of 50-50 in my mind of whether or not he finishes. Really don't know on the prop on him. If I were to guess, I would. A lot of people don't think, again, like I said, the sub is live for him. I just don't see how that's possible to look at a Makhachev fight and say that he can't sub anybody. So just subbed Oliveira. And like, what did T-City had, Ortega had him like gargling his own like blood. He's like, please, somehow survives that. So yeah, I feel like it's possible that Islam could sub him, but no great confidence in the props or the totals or anything like that. But I do have confidence in the Islam side.
Yeah. So for me, this was big. Like taping this fight, capping this fight. Islam is one of my favorite fighters. I don't know why. I love the Dagestani guys. I know people hate on them for the boring stuff, but as a wrestler, I can appreciate dominance on the ground, and I love their game. Volk is also one of my favorite fighters. And honestly, out of the two of them, I like Islam more. That said, if this was on a full camp after watching that previous fight and we had a similar line, there'd be zero doubt in my mind that I'd be on Volkanovski. Zero doubt. There's an argument to be made he won that previous fight. I think Islam won. I had money on him, so maybe that's why. But watching it back the second time, I definitely was like, all right, this was a close fight. I could see it. I could see why some people felt that Volk won, even though I still don't. I have to disagree with you with the adjustments thing. I mean, we don't know what Islam's adjustments look like. He's never had a rematch. We don't really know what that's going to look like, but we do know what Volk looks like in rematches and how he adjusts. You know, in the first fight with Holloway, it was the leg kicks. That was his read, and it worked. Second fight, it was different for him. Wasn't working out on the feet. He mixed in the wrestling instead. Third fight, he had Max completely figured out, and I mean, he just brutalized my idol, so that sucked to watch. But the dude, I mean, his ability to adjust, his ability to read the fight, understand what he has to do, it's just incredible. And also, like, I know it's 10 days, but first off, he's training for Topuria, right? And is that really that much different of a matchup? In my mind, not really. Topuria is less physical, but he's also a grappler. He's also a guy who's going to be shooting on Volk, and he's also a guy who with good striking and good power that Volk would have had to watch out for. Now Islam's much bigger, much different kind of grappling, that I understand. But, you know, Volk's already prepared for him once. He's fought him once for 25 minutes. He knows what it's like. And, you know, for a guy who talks about legacy and all that, and like even leading up to the fight with Max Holloway, the third one, right? He's like, you know, I'd be an idiot to say I'm not scared, but also, does Max want this right now? Because if Max loses this, it's 0-3, what's he going to do? And I feel like he's definitely having the same thoughts here. Like, this is it for him with Islam. If he loses to Islam and Islam remains champion at lightweight, I don't think we're seeing that fight again, unless, again, it was razor close and we get some kind of crazy situation in the future. I think he understands, and I don't think he would have taken the fight if he didn't think he knew, like, he had a shot. I was listening to his interviews. I normally could care less what fighters say during interviews, but if it's someone intelligent like him, I'll listen. And, you know, he pretty much said he's like, I'm not out here grinding that I can do five rounds, 25 minutes. I'm not wasting my time on that. I know what I have to do. I know what I envision. Of course, he envisions a finish. But for me, it's good to know that he understands he probably needs to come out here and he's going to have to fight quick and he's going to have to fight with urgency. Do I think he finishes Islam? Maybe. Really, really hard for me to see it, like, play it out. I know we've seen Islam flatline, but like, it's just really hard for me to see that. But then, like, even in the last fight, right? Islam took him down 4 times, but he only really got control up against the fence. And then when he had his back for like 3 minutes, and that was really it. Other than that, Volk did a really good job defending takedowns, and he did a very solid job getting back up. And my other thing on the feet, I don't really rate Islam that highly on the feet. I think he's good. But I don't think he's that great. Like, I mean, he's a champion, right? But by that great, you get what I'm saying. I don't think he's like one of the best strikers in the division. I don't. I do really like his clinch game. The clinch knees in that last Volk fight were nasty, and he'll probably use them again here. But I low-key think that Volkanovski is the better striker. And I think that especially in the second fight, with him already having reads on the striking of Islam, I think he's going to be more successful on the feet. So for me, I really want to play Volk. It's just it's there's the red flags, right? Short notice. I believe he had an elbow injury, surgery, something like that. And then I saw something about him not sparring for like 6 weeks, something like that. So that's of course a concern. And then him coming all the way to Abu Dhabi, but just it's my eyes, but it's also my gut. I got a gut feeling that he might pull this off. So I'm gonna wait. If the line stays about where it is, I'm just gonna lay off and watch a really good fight. And then if Volk gets something funky like plus 275 or higher, I'm gonna play him for a unit. I understand it's a really, really tough ask for him, but if anyone who can get it done, it's gonna be him. So
yeah, I mean, the thing I'd add to that is like the first fight. Like I think if you ask both, I think both of the fighters even said this, like post fight, that both surprised the other with how they did not have this as big of an advantage that they thought, where they had an advantage, like the striking advantage for Volk pre-fight. He's like, dude, I'm going to fucking murder this guy on the feet. Like I'm going to be killing him. Like he's going to be panic shooting because I'm going to be killing him on the feet. And like Islam didn't get murdered in that. He had major success in the striking realm compared to what a lot of people thought pre-fight, as well as Volk had incredible success on the ground. Like, so in defending takedowns and not getting into really horrible positions on the ground, and then getting his back taken and then never really being in a submission threat at all. So it's like, that's where to me, it's like, okay, both guys really outperformed and were trained and ready for these guys and super prepared for this fighter. So yeah, can they click into like, they're both incredible athletes and they're both champions. So like, can they both click into that idea mentally and say like, oh yeah, I know what, yeah, they can. But like one fighter is absolutely preparing for this moment right now. And like you said, like, we don't know, there's so many like question marks on what Volk has been doing and when he was prepared to fight Topuria. So it's like, this is just completely different timelines for these guys in preparation. And I feel like the last thing I'd say is like, the positions that Volk was in and getting into after the takedowns it's super greasy. Like, because it can happen in fights where you just land, like in the Usman versus Leon Edwards fight. Like, dude, Leon Edwards didn't really get mount. He landed in mount. Like he body takedown. He tripped him, and then he basically landed on top. He's like, oh shit, well, I might just climb up a little bit here. So it's like, what you do in the first 2 to 5 seconds after the takedown is fucking everything. So like, what happens in those moments, and that's where I was saying like the training that Volk was doing and how just on point he was in defending these positions, and instantaneously the second that he gets down going, nope, I cannot stay here in this position or this position for longer than 2 seconds. I've got to be moving to get to this or this. And he did it fucking perfectly. But I just think that it's going to be, I just don't think that translates, like, unless you're training it all the time over and over and over. And it's, again, like you said, I don't disagree at all that Topuria is a similar stylistic fighter, minus being orthodox versus southpaw. Like, it's similar styles to Makhachev, but I just also feel like Makhachev doesn't strike the same way as Topuria does. He's like way, way, way more defensively responsible. Topuria is going to go into firefights and put himself into harm's way. And then just the takedown ability and just the wrestling on Makhachev, as well as size, is just absurd. Like, so I feel like there's differences in how they do that. And I just feel like how Volk would fight Topuria would be different. Like, what he's doing in that fight and how he's like, what he's thinking is going to come at him is going to be a little bit different.
Do you think that Volk was being honest when he told his corner that Islam's not strong when they asked him?
I think that it's kind of what I thought, like what I was saying before. I kind of think like he was assuming that it was going to be so much bigger of an advantage than it was. And then the same thing he felt like his advantage on the feet was just so much. I think both of them were just, you could see the look when both didn't get it done. They're like, God damn, like you as a competitor, you just get that feeling where you're like, I should be finishing this guy, or I should have a bigger advantage when I'm getting what I want to have happening. And it's like neither one was able to do that. So I think that just the respect between them both just grew that much more, because they're like, oh, I never knew you could do it that well. So I think that both are tragically underrated in there. I think Islam's tragically underrated striking, and I think that Volk is tragically underrated grappling. So I just think that both are just insane, well-rounded fighters that there's nothing that you can easily go at or easily beat either one of them on.
Yeah, I'm so hyped for this fight. Honestly, like, way prefer this over Charles. Way prefer it over the Charles fight.
I'm a Charles stan, so I actually would prefer this too.
I just got that one. But like, also, like, you know, Islam was preparing for Charles, which I feel like is also a very different matchup. Like, completely different matchup. Like, he knew what to do. He knew what to expect there. And all of a sudden, he's got his toughest fight all over again on 10 days notice. So I feel like it goes both ways there. But it's definitely harder for Volk, without a doubt. But all right, guys, that's UFC 294. Thank you all for tuning in. Thanks for everybody hanging out in the live chat. And most importantly, thank you, Tim, for pulling up, brother. Real quick, why don't you let the people know where to find you and what you got going on?
On X, we do Twitter Spaces with Sean Orr on Saturdays on the cards. We won't be doing one this week. And then Narco Cop and I do Lambo Plays on his YouTube channel. Fridays, he's in Vegas this week, so he's going to be doing it with somebody else this week.
Cool. And then for me, guys, Couch Warrior Pod on Twitter. That's where I post my bets as soon as I make them. My Discord is 100% free. That's where I started putting my bets first now. So it goes Discord, Twitter. That's the order. Pull up there. The link's all over the place. I'll put it in the description also. You guys can hop in. We talk fights, and I give out my bets. And then you can either tail, fade, or laugh at me. That's all options. So, and then in terms of content this week, tomorrow, I believe I'm going live with Lou for his prop show. Don't know the details exactly. I believe we're going live at 9:30 or 10, but I'll let Lou tell you guys all that. And then on Thursday, the panel's back, the pay-per-view panel. I believe Tim has been on it in the past, and he will be in the future. But we've got a new co-host, my guy Addicted to Combat, Patrick. Unfortunately, he has to step away for a bit. Just got work stuff, got another job doing his thing, winning at life. So my guy, Tyler, 138 MMA, he's going to step up, going to be my new co-host. If you guys don't know him, I've done a bunch of shows with him. The guy's awesome, owns a couple gyms, just a cool dude, super sharp. Looking forward to doing shows with him. And our two guests this week are Lucrative MMA and Uncle Weezy. So it should be a really good time. Make sure to check that out. And that's going to be it for me this week. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Good luck this weekend, and peace out.